Steve, it is official visit season, and no program can touch the star-studded group that Clemson is bringing in this weekend. You got 20-plus official visitors embarking on Death Valley over the next few days. And before we get into some of those specific prospects, there are some big-time names. But first, why do you think that Dabo opts to, bring in all of these official visitors into one weekend as opposed to maybe spreading them out?
Well, maybe he's talked about it in the past and I missed it. So if they have, please put it in the comments while you like and subscribe. But I think it's an opportunity for him to get all these prospects on Clemson's campus together where they can envision a future playing for the ACC powerhouse. A lot of like-minded individuals that get a chance to see what that culture is all about and what all that program's about in one weekend. And look, when Clemson has big recruiting weekends, Dabo Swinney's at his best with his presentations to recruits. It's one of the things that people, when I talk to prospects after these big recruiting weekends at Clemson, there's 2 or 3 a year. They always talk about the way Dabo Swinney presents to the guys on campus for about an hour, hour and a half, and he normally knocks it out of the park. He knows what his message is to these recruits when they come on campus. And look, they have one big recruiting weekend, so if you know Clemson's one of your finalists, you're basing your schedule around that. You know you have to go to Clemson the first weekend in June, and that just shows how serious these prospects are about Clemson, that they're moving their schedule around to accommodate the Tigers.
We have no reason to question it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's talk some of those names, though. Sammy Brown, Edric Houston, KJ Bolden, Bryant Wesco all highlight this big weekend. And starting with the 2 highest-rated defenders, Brown and Bolden, where does Clemson stand with those 2?
Well, they've been near the top of the list for both of them, particularly Sammy Brown. They've been one of his leaders since elementary school. That's how long he's been camping at Clemson. He was the first prospect that Clemson offered in the 2024 recruiting class, and he just says it's the best culture in college football. He loves what they've done at the linebacker position historically, and he knows Coach Dabo Swinney so well. He's very comfortable with the program. I've talked a lot about liking Georgia's position, but Clemson's a school you can never sleep on with Sammy Brown. He's fresh off a great official to Tennessee that has set the tone for his next 4 trips, which is Clemson, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. And then KJ Bolden, that's another I have predicted to Georgia right now, but Clemson's a school he's been to a lot. It's close to home. Same with Sammy Brown. Again, he loves the culture, loves Coach Reed and that coaching staff, and he's excited to get back to Clemson and soak in this weekend as well.
Big gear shift change here, heading from Death to Happy Valley. Unlike Clemson, Penn State has a few visit weekends, but coming up has got to be one of the biggest. Liam Andrews out of Massachusetts headlines this group. So how do you like James Franklin's shot to land the number 4 interior offensive lineman in this class?
Well, there's not a program in the country going harder for Liam than Penn State, and this is a young man who's a jumbo athlete. Emily, he's a guy that some programs covet on the defensive line as well. And that's kind of where it's shifting for Penn State here. They have the number 7 class in the country. He's one of their top overall targets moving forward. He's really started to hit it off with Coach Deion Barnes. And again, Penn State is one of the programs recruiting him the hardest. He told our Brian Doan. Wisconsin is another coming hard. He just locked in an official visit to Florida. So Penn State looking to really set the tone in this recruitment moving forward this weekend.
Right, sticking with the Big Ten, Ohio State's official visit weekend includes 2 blue-chip defensive line prospects. You got 5-star Dominic McKinley and 4-star Nigel Smith. So where do the Buckeyes sit with these 2?
Well, Nigel Smith's been to campus several times. I think they're one of the programs that he's very familiar with. Recently narrowed his top list of schools, and this is another opportunity for Ohio State to get him back and try and pull him out of the Lone Star State. Both of these recruitments are going to be tough for Ohio State, in my opinion. Dominic McKinley, the number 1 player in Louisiana. You got obviously LSU swinging, Texas A&M in there, Oklahoma in the mix, and among others. But Ohio State getting an opportunity here. And anytime you have Larry Johnson, who is, in some people's opinion, the best defensive line coach to ever coach in college football, that gives Ohio State a chance with his track record. And these are guys that want to get up there and see it for themselves. Elijah Moore is a receiver I'm keeping an eye on for Ohio State. He moved his visit up a couple weeks, Emily, and I think with that, reading between the lines, I like the way it's trending for the Buckeyes as they try and hold off Michigan, among others, for him.
Love the Ohio State-Michigan competition on the recruiting trail. We are bopping all around the country, so let's head down to the swamp where Florida is gearing up for a big visit weekend. You got Ohio State commit Jeremiah Smith and Texas A&M commit Dalen Evans. Both will be in attendance. What are the chances that the Gators are pulling out the spatula and are able to flip these two highly rated prospects?
Well, you talked about all the 5 stars visiting Clemson. It's also a 5-star Central down at Florida. Jeremiah Smith's a guy that's been on campus several times. I think Florida's probably in the top 3 here. You also have programs like Miami and Florida State hanging around, but Georgia certainly impressed with their official visit a couple weekends ago. And as we said on the program, there were people in Athens that spent time with Jeremiah Smith and his family that think that Georgia has a chance. And here he is returning to Florida, where he has a really good relationship with the staff, likes the program trajectory, and he's really hit it off with DJ Lagway. And then Dalen Evans, he had a great visit to Florida in April. Loved his experience on campus, had a chance to talk to him about that earlier today. He's really pumped to get back. Florida's talking about playing him on the end, which is something that's also very exciting to him. But similar to Ohio State, where it's tough to flip a wide receiver because Brian Hartline does a great job of building meaningful relationships with top targets in addition to his track record of player development. Texas A&M, they have Elijah Robinson and Terry Price recruiting their defensive linemen, and they do a phenomenal job of keeping in-state defensive linemen in the fold as well.
You mentioned some of the 5 stars in attendance. They are going after some uncommitted players like defensive lineman David Stone and the edge Jordan Ross. Both are kicking off their June slate of visits with Florida. So I'm curious, how much does that help Billy Napier and the Gators if they get that first crack at some of those guys?
Well, I just think that, there's a lot of excitement coming into the month for these prospects getting on the road, ready to take their visits, and there's going to just be a lot of energy. I mean, Florida's hosting just about every touted defensive lineman on an official visit this weekend, so it's a chance for these guys to envision themselves playing together for a program that's trying to rise the ladder in the SEC again. And Florida had some major wins on the defensive line last cycle. Kelby Collins, Cameron James to beat Alabama and Georgia for players like that. They're trying to now string recruiting wins like that together again this cycle. David Stone has really hit it off with Coach Chaos, Sean Spencer, their defensive line coach. Talked about Dalen Evans. LJ McCray is another major target for Florida on the defensive line. If they could get either Evans or LJ McCray, I think they'd be ecstatic, and they have a chance for both. McCray's been on campus several times this spring. Jordan Ross is an outside linebacker that maybe I like Tennessee for right now, but Florida's certainly impressed. And then you got guys like DeAndre Robinson, Kendall Jackson, and Jaden Jackson, who I think they have a terrific shot as well at the point of attack. So Florida, if they can just land a few of these defensive linemen, those are big-time SEC caliber championship type players that Florida has on campus this weekend that they're trying to make a major impact with.
Sounds like the Gators are taking a lot of swings. We'll find out soon if they get some hits. Thank you for breaking down what's the beginning of a wild June with official visits. So, Steve, thanks so much.